All right. We'll just assume that everything's working. Headphones are plugged in. I know. Oh, no, they're not actually. There we go. The headphones are plugged in. Not that that changes anything for me as I get started here. The headphones will come in handy when Jim's tuned in, but we'll get to him in a moment here on the weekly live Wednesday night Panther-Lair Show on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We talk all things Pitt sports for about an hour here live on Wednesday nights. And we take your comments and questions as we get going here. Every Wednesday night, 8:30 to 9:30, we talk a little Pitt sports on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We take comments and questions over on the chat side there. You can be a super chatter to make sure you get all of your comments read and your questions answered. We don't get to everybody's comments and questions, but if you're a super chatter, we definitely will. So make sure you like this video and subscribe. And click the super chat button and get your comments and questions over there. There's a lot going on right now. This is sort of the fun time of year. I keep talking about this on the morning pit. It's a fun time of year when everything's kind of everything's happening. You know, there's football games still going on. The basketball season's getting underway, and yeah, it's those things. And then heading up in recruiting because signing day is actually 2 weeks from today. I'll talk to, Jim and I'll talk about that for sure. Pitt lost a commitment today. So we've got a lot to discuss on that front heading towards signing day. Again, football season coming near the end of the regular season. Basketball right at the beginning of the regular season with the huge games coming up this weekend. Very interesting games at the Greenbrier Luxury Resort. And that place is interesting. I've been reading about how it's got a giant, like 120,000 square foot bunker underneath that was originally designed to be a Cold War nuclear Holocaust emergency destination for the members of Congress. Shout out to Dwight Eisenhower for thinking that Congress should go to West Virginia in the event of a nuclear war. How are they going to get from Washington, D.C.? Like from the time you knew that the missiles were on the way and you thought you could get Congress from D.C. to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, seems like a fool. It's like in Fight Club when he's like, exit door procedure at 35,000 feet. Yeah, that's the illusion of safety. It's kind of like that, right? Like, hey, let's put a bunker for Congress in West Virginia. I don't know how far that is from D.C., but I got to imagine the missiles might get there before Congress makes it. But I guess Joe Manchin to be safe, right? Anyway, Greenbrier's a weird place, man, and they're playing a basketball game in a ballroom. It's going to be – I can't wait to see what this looks like on TV. I just keep imagining it, when you watch like the Maui Invitational or that Okinawa thing that Pitt did a couple years ago. Remember they had to cancel the game because there was too much condensation on the court. It was unsafe. And you could tell they're in like a really small gym and it looks small. And so you could, it's got a weird vibe on TV, but it's cool. You're used to it. This isn't a hotel ballroom. This isn't a hotel ballroom. I don't know how many people they're going to have there. They're charging an arm and a leg for people to go to this thing and stay in the resort. So I guess it doesn't matter if they only have 300 people or 500 people because they're charging so much money. But I'm really interested to see what this looks like on Friday afternoon when Pitt plays LSU. And of course, I'm also very, very interested to see what Pitt looks like on Friday afternoon when Pitt plays LSU. Oh yeah, Green says there's a video of them building the court at Greenbrier. I don't know how you fit more than 200 people in there. Yeah, I thought I saw something like that. I might have to look it up and see if we can find it because it's just going to be so interesting to watch this. But of course, it's also going to be very interesting to see how this Pitt basketball team does. I can't find it with a quick search. So it'll be interesting to see how this Pitt basketball team does against LSU. Their next big test. I would say they've had some big tests. West Virginia was a big test. Some smaller tests. I think in its own unique way, VMI was an interesting test. But here you're going to have two games against Power 4 competition, teams all in the top 60 on KenPom. And maybe even in the top 50, depending on who you play. 2 games in 3 days, tournament setting. You're going to find out a lot about your team. It's not going to be the final verdict on Pitt basketball, but you're going to get a real sense of who they are coming out of this weekend. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, to watch this team play and see how they do and, see if some of the things that we have seen so far end up, playing out. So we'll bring Jim in a second to talk about that, about what we think about Pitt LSU. We'll obviously talk about Pitt Louisville happening on Saturday and where the football team stands with 2 regular season games left to go. Like I say, we'll talk recruiting, but I got to talk to you about our friends at BackshoreApparel.com. Mike, the founder of Backshore, is a huge Pitt fan. He's a 2000. He graduated from Pitt in 2000. He's an Alliance 412 member, and he's the founder of Backshore Apparel, where Backshore has revamped the trucker hat. There's a modern twist on a classic favorite. The innovative laser cut hats are crafted from moisture wicking fabrics, ensuring that they are lightweight and breathable. Experience the ultimate durability and unique floating feature when you select a Backshore hat. And of course, in addition to the hats, Backshore Beach Tech hoodies and t-shirts are the perfect combination of style and functionality. They're crafted with flex fabrics to keep you cool and thinking of warmer weather. The breathable material ensures you feel fresh all day long, while the stain-resistant protection keeps your hoodie looking new for longer. And let's not forget how incredibly soft they are. I have a Backshore hat. I wore it all summer. It's perfect for the pool, perfect for the beach. And right now, Mike, because he's such a big Pitt fan, a Panther-Lair.com member, a Backshore, or a Alliance 412 member, Mike is giving Panther-Lair members early access to the Black Friday sale. Use the code BF20, BF20, for 20% off site-wide at BackshoreApparel.com. Go check it out. They got great stuff. And you can get a discount, 20% off with BF20, BackshoreApparel.com. All right, let's bring Jim in here. Jim, I always forget. Can you hear some of the things I'm saying there when I start, or you just hear like silence? Can you hear me talking in the first few minutes of the show before you jump in?
Oh yeah, I can hear everything. You sound a little nasally. Are you sick?
I mean, you didn't notice at the Clemson game when I was blowing my nose the entire time and sneezing all over the place? I'm surprised you're not sick, actually, sitting next to me at that game. You didn't notice that on Saturday?
I mean, I guess I did a little, but it's really coming through on the microphone. So that's
Yeah,
good. That's good though.
No, it's not good. I feel terrible. But I'm feeling better. I'm rebounding. I think I started feeling kind of sick like last Wednesday, and it's just sort of. But you know what? I noticed in the press box, like it wasn't just me coughing and sneezing. Like everybody's like blowing their nose right now. It's disgusting right now. But did you know all these things about the Greenbrier Resort? That there was a 120,000 square foot bunker underneath it for members of Congress that Dwight Eisenhower built?
Yeah. I think I read that like whenever it first got announced, Pitt was playing in this thing. So I did look it up as you were talking. It's exactly 250 miles from the U.S. Capitol building to the Greenbrier Resort.
So how long
4
driving
hours.
in like the 1950s? How long do you think it would take? Now, that's with the roads we have in 2024. I mean, I don't know if all those interstates would have been built.
Probably
Well,
not.
I don't know. You know, Roosevelt with the works progress might have built some of those interstates. But so what does it say on time wise? 250 miles. How long does that take? Like a little less than 4 hours, I guess.
Yeah, about 4.
How long do you think an ICBM fired from Moscow takes to get to DC?
Probably quicker.
Can you
than
Google map that one? With
I
the
don't
options
know.
there, like options of like drive, public transportation, bike, walk, ICBM.
Nuclear.
I wonder who would win a race. Like, 530 members of Congress leaving DC for West Virginia, or like 12, intercontinental ballistic missiles, leaving, probably not Moscow, probably somewhere further west, heading to DC. I just don't know if they could outrun the missiles, and so again, illusion of safety, 122,000 square foot illusion of safety. The illusion of safety. Apparently the Today Show went to the bunker some years ago, so you could actually like see and you can take tours and stuff. Apparently you can like private tours or guided tours.
Is it maintained? Like
enough to view it on a tour. I mean,
okay.
I don't think they're sending Congress there. They've kind of it was supposed to be top secret. So I think that it's kind of, the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, in terms of a bunker. So I guess it's not being used anymore. But very weird. Have you seen any? I did see some of the pictures of this ballroom. Have you seen any of the images or videos coming out of there?
Yeah, I just kind of Google or searched on YouTube, and I saw like the highlights because some of the undercard teams like got to play there this past weekend.
Okay.
It looks like a middle school gym. I mean, there's like probably a set of bleachers on the one side that looks like maybe 8 deep, and like that's kind of it. There's a few seats underneath the basket, so I think the Battle for Atlantis, like that was kind of like a newer tournament a couple years ago down in the Bahamas, and they also played in a ballroom. So I don't know why they just can't play like in a gym somewhere. I don't know, but
you would think, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess like the Greenbrier Resort is like, well, if we have it like the local Greenbrier High School gym or wherever the White Sulphur Springs High School gym, nobody's going to pay to stay at the Greenbrier Resort. And probably a lot of people aren't paying to stay at the resort anyway. I think Chris Carter said he got an Airbnb. And so, good luck to him deep in the southern hollows of West Virginia. Hopefully he stays safe on his trip. But I don't know. I mean, do you remember that Okinawa game back in like 2010 or 2011, somewhere around there?
I do. I think it was 2014 or
was it that late? Okay.
Yeah, because James I have like vivid memories of like James Robinson like trying to like dribble down the court and just like
wiped out. Yeah. James Robinson is who I was picturing as well. Yeah, that was one of the weirder things. I mean, like that was weirder than like the aircraft carrier games, that they did a few times when they were like, that was kind of cool and unique. This was just like, where the hell are you guys? You're in some random barn in Okinawa and they can't keep the court dry. Like, what's going on here? This has to be the weirdest neutral court. I mean, because you're used to it when you watch like the Maui Invitational or something, like you're used to like the smaller kind of gym and it's kind of cool. I mean, you see that, but this thing's just going to be weird. All right. We'll get to basketball in a little bit. I think most people want to talk football right off the bat. Finkel Studios jumped in as a chatter, says, not a super chatter, just a regular chatter. Says if we can get to 10 wins, we'll have an 11-win, 9-win, 3-win, and 10-win season combined for 33, which averages 8 wins a year over 4 seasons. That's pretty good. I mean, obviously there's an outlier there with the 3-win season. I think the way you and I have often said it of like 3 9+ win seasons 3 out of 4 years, getting 9+ wins 3 out of 4 years is probably a nicer way to say it and a more impressive way to say it. The question now is, can they get to 9 wins? I'm still oddly confident that they're going to win 9 games. They have 3 more to get 2 wins. And even if you want to say Saturday, Jim, is the big question mark, they shouldn't lose the ball. I know they shouldn't have lost to Virginia. I know, but like, they shouldn't lose to Boston College, and they'll probably end up in a bowl against a team they should beat. So I still feel pretty confident about 9 wins. Do you?
I still think it's very much realistic. And like even going into Saturday, I know the line's kind of like Louisville by about a touchdown, but like, I don't know. They beat them last year. I looked at Louisville. I mean, like, I don't know. They're like, they lost to one of the worst teams in Power 5 football to Stanford the other day. So, I mean, they have their shortcomings. Their defense isn't quite as good as it has been. I mean, you obviously know like the Braum coach team is going to be good offensively, but I don't know. I mean, just seeing how they approached last year's game, and I could see them being competitive. I could see Louisville being a little deflated. They thought they were going to be off to bigger and better things, and now they're 6-4, and they still have Kentucky next week too. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a game where I think the teams are kind of at equal points in their season. I don't really see why. I mean, I could see why maybe it's a touchdown favorite because of Pitt's quarterback situation and all that, but I don't know. They kind of look even to me.
Yeah. How much? The one thing I keep coming back to is that I'm fairly encouraged by how Pitt played against Clemson, particularly in the second half. I think the defense overall, but the offense, particularly in the second half, they have 260 some yards in the second half. I think, obviously only 1 touchdown, but they get 3 scoring drives. There just were so many points in the second half where I was like, yes, that is the thing they were doing in the first 5 games that they were doing well, whether it was Kanate Mumfield in the zone or getting the ball to Desmond Reed and letting him make plays. They had a couple passes to Gavin Bartholomew. Like, it just seemed like they were doing the things that they had done when they were good. And they were doing them again. It's sort of reassuring me, at least, and I think a lot of people, that, yes, they still can do those things. So, like, no moral victories or anything like that, but I thought it was about as encouraging of a loss as you're going to get, because for the first time in maybe a while, they kind of looked like themselves again on offense.
Yeah, I'd agree. And it was a good enough effort that if they did that against Virginia, they would have beaten Virginia by a couple touchdowns. I mean,
Yeah.
like to do what they did against Clemson, a really talented football team, even being down 2 scores at halftime, and like there was like no quit. Like the defense just kind of got to work right away after halftime. So like, yeah, they played good football, and it was like the offense was moving. Like there was like it wasn't a surprise whenever they got like a gain of 10 plus yards. Like there was stuff there. There was receivers open. There was running lanes. I thought they were mixing and matching the play calls well. I think they started the second half with like a little screen to Des Reed, and it went for like 18 yards. It's like things they weren't doing before. And I'm like, I think even like during that, during this 3-game losing streak or this stretch of 4 games, I've been saying like, why not get Desmond Reed on a linebacker in the passing game? And they finally did that. And look, he had 100 yards. I mean, like, it seems that simple, but like, yeah, like he's available. Like Gavin Bartholomew, we said all year he's available. Look, he played well the other day. So I don't know. I mean, I think they're just kind of unlocking things on offense that just weren't there. And I don't know if it was because there was a different quarterback looking at things, but I don't know. The offense just seemed to move better than it has for about a month.
Well, since you brought it up, if let's say Eli Holstein's cleared and 100% healthy and available, what do you do?
I mean, I think you could kind of go with the idea that like you sit down with Eli and say like, dude, like you're our guy next year. Like everyone knows that, but right now in this exact moment, maybe we're just going to roll with Nate. And if Nate throws 3 interceptions in the first half, then you're back in there, like something like that. But like, I don't want to mess up what they just did. They just had their best offensive half of football in a month.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just kind of take away that momentum for a quarterback that's kind of been struggling lately. I mean, he hasn't been seeing the field as well. He hasn't been reacting to blitzes that fast. Even whenever he decides to take off and run, he's like indecisive about it. So I don't know. I don't know if whatever happened in the Syracuse game affected him going into the Virginia game. Then obviously that was a pretty ugly hit in the Virginia game. So yeah, I mean, he's your future. You want to be cautious with him. You can't go to the ACC championship anymore. So I think right now it's about stacking wins. And I think right now for this current team against Louisville, I think starting Nate Yarnell kind of makes the most sense.
The easiest path would just be if Holstein's not cleared, right? Then there's no decision to make. You just stick with Yarnell and you can go with him. Yeah, it's obviously a situation that's going to need some finesse on a lot of sides. You know what I mean? I think you know, if Holstein's available and you decide to go back to him, I think you would still like to keep Nate Yarnell around. So you want to handle that situation gingerly if you can. But if you decide to stick with Yarnell and, even with Holstein available, then you need to handle that situation gingerly. You'd like to think everybody is working toward the same common goal. It's undeniable. I mean, I think in the first half against Clemson, Yarnell didn't look all that great. I mean, he was getting killed. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but he didn't look that great. And against Virginia, he was like 4 of 12 with 2 interceptions. So not exactly an encouraging performance, but he made some throws. He made those throws to Konate Mumpfield that I mentioned. That touchdown pass to Gavin Bartholomew was really nice. That was really nice. He had a pass to Raphael Williams in the end zone that Williams dropped. It would have been tough, but the ball was thrown perfectly. I mean, they were really nice throws. He doesn't have Holstein's mobility, but he looked like he was able to move the offense. That doesn't mean Holstein can't do it, because all these things I'm saying about they looked like they were doing the things they did when they were good. And well, those were the things Holstein was doing. He was the guy doing it when they were doing them well. It's just a question of, like you say, who gives them the best chance? Because I do think it's really important to get 2 more wins. I think it's hugely important to get 2 more wins out of this schedule, whether you go 9-3 and lose a bowl game, or 1-1 and 8-4 in the regular season and win your bowl game. I think they bought themselves some extra wins with the games against Cincinnati and West Virginia to win like they did there. You got to capitalize. You got to get to 9 wins. I mean, I think 8-5 would be really disappointing. However that comes, and I don't know. So you got to find the guy who gives you the best chance. But then there's the offensive line too. And, they've used 5 different starting combinations on the offensive line. I wonder if it'll be 6 this week because did they start? Jacoby started this past week, right? Ryan Jacoby?
He did.
Yeah. So, but then he got hurt again. So you could end up with Bear, Collier, who knows at center, right? Because Lyndon Cooper got hurt. Williams, and then either Jackson Brown, who started this past week, or Isaiah Montgomery, who started the week before. I mean, like, it seems like almost a certainty they'll have a sixth different starting offensive line combination. So, like, we're talking about the quarterbacks, but it might not even matter when, these guys are unable to block up front. Because Louisville, is this your take too, that Louisville's defense is not great?
It's not as good as it was last year, and it's kind of interesting because they have a lot of the same players. Like Ashton Gillot was like one of the best defensive linemen in the league last year, and he only has like 2 sacks this year, and he had like 10.5 last year. So I don't know why there's a decrease in production. I mean, Louisville hit the transfer portal hard. Like, they have good players on that side of the ball, so I don't know what exactly is clicking, but at the same time, you just gave up 38 points to a really terrible Stanford team. So obviously there's something to it. So I mean, like, I think one of the strengths of Louisville last year was the pass rush. I thought they were, near the top of the country or league in sacks, and they're down a little bit this year. So I don't know. It's still, whenever you have offensive line troubles, everything just is out of sync. And I think Pat Narduzzi was asked about that on Monday, and he was like, you hate to blame like the penalties on that, but you almost do whenever you have a different voice calling out the cadence. You have different linemen playing next to each other. It's been changing every week. Some guys like Terrence Eno, so like 1 week he's playing tackle, 1 week he's playing guard. So I thought Pitt, obviously was really bad at penalties last year, pre-snap penalties, and I thought that was a big emphasis at the start of the year to clean up, and I thought they were good. Then, it kind of like all those problems kind of came up again. So yeah, it's like blocking, but it's everything about the offensive line play right now. Like, nothing's really working.
I'm sure you saw the stats I had. They have 17 procedure penalties on the offense as a whole this season. 9 are in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
So they were really good. They had like 4 games with no procedure penalties. And like when they stack up like they pile up like they have in the last 2 games, it becomes like, why are Narduzzi's teams always undisciplined? This team has been taking false. Somebody on the boards just now was like, Gavin Bartholomew, well, he gets called for a false start every game. Well, he's had one false start. Yeah. And it was in the Clemson game, and it was a crucial one, and it was bad. Like, there's no, like, you should not ignore it or overlook it. Like, BJ Williams has been really good. Well, he had a bad false start in the Clemson game that cost them in a crucial situation. Now, he wasn't the only one. There were 3 penalties in a row when BJ Williams took his false start. So he's certainly not the only guy to blame, but it feels, it feels like there's a lot more because there've been so much recently, but it's something they've got to get cleaned up. And I do think having a different quarterback with a different cadence can change things. And then obviously all the different linemen and that stuff. But that doesn't explain Raphael Williams. What was it? The first play of the Virginia game? He jumped.
It wasn't set or something like that. It's like,
what? And like their receivers have like multiple of these like false start penalties. It's like, come on, or delay of games, not getting the ball in it, or not getting the play in time. Like, you've got to be able to, handle those things a little bit better. $7 says the fall off Pitt football is going through needs to be studied. I don't think there's much to study. I mean, I think like you had a redshirt freshman quarterback. So I think there were always going to be some points where there were ups and downs. And then you had some injuries start cropping in addition to the schedule getting tougher. It's not that crazy. And like, I think like Cal and Syracuse, there were plenty of people saying, boy, if they play like that against Clemson and SMU, they're going to lose. Well, and actually they kind of didn't play like that against Clemson. They played that like that against Virginia and they lost. It just, I don't know if it's not some great mystery, right? I think it's pretty clear why this team has lost 3 games in a row, isn't it?
I think, and like at the same time, it's like I never thought Pitt was going 12-0. Like there had to be like a point where like something kind of caught up to them. Like they were kind of living on the edge a little bit too much with some of those close games, comeback victories, and like we say this all the time, but like college football, there's such a fine line between winning and losing, and it's like two of the 3 losses have been by 4 points, 5 points. Like it's a play here, it's a play there. I mean, like say Isaiah Neal trips up Clay Kubnik, they don't score a touchdown there. Like everyone's feeling great right now. Where this is like a happy tone, everyone's jumping in, super chatting, talking about how great Pitt football is and all that. And it's like, it's that close. It's like if he just gets tripped there, the clock keeps running, then, you know, maybe Clemson doesn't score and Pitt pulls off the biggest upset of the year. And it's like, it was that close.
Yeah. Game of inches, like the Desmond Reed touchdown run where he tried to dive over the pylon. The play where, he needed when Pitt was driving, was it on their last drive when he only got like 9.5 yards?
Yeah.
And so it was like 2nd and 1. And that was when Bartholomew took the false start, right? And that made it 2nd and 6, or was that when they ended up settling for a field goal? No,
I thought the last drive,
right?
He let the clock run a little bit, thinking they were going to measure, and they just never did.
That's right. That's why he did. Oh yeah, I think Bartholomew's false start was on a 2nd and 9 when they ended up kicking the field goal to go up. Right. I think they were like 2nd and 9 at like the 16 or something, and then Bartholomew jumped, and so it was 2nd and 21. So they ended up, or 2nd and 14, excuse me, from the 21. So they ended up laying up for the field goal instead of going for the touchdown. But you're right. But like little inches there. If Desmond Reed gets like, a yard is 3 feet. If he gets another 1.5 feet, it's a first down. The clock stops. They have, they're in a totally different kind of situation. It's and I think on that next play, Yarnell tried to throw to Bartholomew over the middle, right? And a Clemson D lineman just got his hand up and deflected the ball just a little bit, or else Bartholomew gets at least 10 yards. He gets a first down at a minimum and probably gets them to the 10, and they have the clock stop and they have a legitimate shot at the end zone. So, it is inches. It is inches, and Pitt's not good enough to be that far ahead of Clemson and not have the inches come back and get him. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, Scott Martin has a basketball question. It's really early, but are you still overly thrilled about Amsal Delilich as you were when his commitment was announced? Absolutely. I have not wavered one bit in my support and belief in Amsal Delilich being awesome. Have you, Jim?
No, and I mean, it kind of even goes back to last year. Like at this time, Jalen Lowe really wasn't Jalen Lowe. He wasn't doing anything. He was like barely, a couple points here and there, like playing, kind of garbage minutes. Then all of a sudden, like after Christmas, like something clicked, and he's now one of the best guards in the ACC. So I still think Amsal's really talented. I think it's going to work. I mean, you can see the shot. It's pure. It's going to play. I think he just kind of needs to get up to speed.
Yeah. It's interesting about Jalen. And Jalen wasn't a 21-year-old 6'7" Bosnian who's been playing pro basketball for years, I mean, like, you're right, and Jalen caught on, and I think Amsal will too. He's had some turnovers, but I think, I still think back to the first game when Jeff Capel was like, or first game when he played, he said, he's thrown some passes that we haven't really seen before. We're not really used to those passes because he can pass. He can see the court. He can handle the ball, and he's shooting. I don't know how he is really on defense. I haven't gotten a really good feel for that, but I think his minutes are just going to keep going up. They've got the starting 5 and Zach Austin. And Austin right now, I don't know if you've noticed. You've been to the one game this year, but if in previous years, like last year, at the beginning of the game, the starters would huddle on the court, but it was the starters and Ishmael Leggett. Like there'd be 6 guys huddling on the court before they went out for the tip-off. I think they did that with like Nike Sabandi a couple years ago. Like it would be the 5 starters and him. So this year, the 5 starters are huddling on the court, but Zach Austin is in that huddle too. There's 6 guys huddling. So that's your top 6. The questions are about 7, 8, and 9. I think Brandon Cummings is pretty firmly right now in the 7 spot as that extra guard. And then it's Amsal and Jorge for 8 and 9. Jorge didn't play until the second half against VMI. And I think saw limited. Did he play? I don't think he played in the first half against West Virginia either. Come to think of it,
I don't even know if Amsal did either. Like
no. The West Virginia game, he stayed to a 7-man rotation until about like 5 minutes into the second half. Amsal got off the bench in the first half against VMI. So they played 8 guys in that game in the first half, only 7 in the first half against West Virginia. I mean, Jorge coming off a 4 for 4 performance from 3. Do you think that moves him up, or is that just garbage time, against VMI?
I'd like to see him do more because, yeah, I mean, anyone can start making shots at the end of the game in a 40-point blowout, but like some of his other minutes and cameos this year, like he's not doing much. He's throwing bad passes, dribbling it off his leg, not hitting any kind of shots. Like he's not really giving them much. So I'd like to see him do more. And I don't know if these games are going to be close this weekend, which I'm not sure if they will or not. I still don't know what to make of, LSU, Wisconsin, UCF. I think Pitt's better than all three teams, but I don't. You just never know how a neutral site game is going to work out. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to really get the opportunity or if Capel's going to play that really tight rotation with only the starters, Zach Austin, and maybe a little Brandon.
Right. Yeah, the shot was so sweet though. Like Jorge's shot just looked pretty on Monday night. You know what I mean? Like, and it was funny after the game. Like we were interviewing those guys, and I asked Jorge, like, your last, because his last 3-3-pointers were like Jalen Lowe's final 3 assists to get to the triple double. It was like assist 8, 9, and 10 were all 3-pointers by Jorge, and I was like, your last 3 shots, you had to make those to get him his triple double. Did you know that? And he's like, or I was like, were you thinking about it? He's like, no, I wasn't thinking about making it. I was just thinking, if he passes it wide, I just shoot it, I guess. Trust in my work. And I mean, I made it. That's what I do. I was like, nice. I appreciate that Jorge, for all he's been through, is still pretty confident, and actually when he said that, Jalen off to the side was like, facts, which I think is, kids saying like, yeah, what that guy said is true. And so, like, I appreciate that Jorge still has that confidence. I appreciate that Jalen still has that confidence, that when he was looking for assists 8, 9, and 10 to complete his triple-double, he wasn't just trying to feed the ball down low or something. He was like, I'm going to give it to Jorge. Jorge will drain the threes. And he did. He made all 3 of them. It was pretty remarkable. Green says, I could be wrong, but it seems like this is the first season at Pitt that Jeff Capel hasn't lost an early game to a team he shouldn't have. He finally has his team ready at the beginning of the season. I got to give credit to when it's due. I mean, last year they started 4-0 and then they lost to Florida. I think Florida last year was better than West Virginia this year. Would we agree about that?
Yeah.
West Virginia didn't look very good. So I think last year was pretty similar. They ran into a tough team, a team that was ready for Bub Carrington, and I just think to remember, I mean, made that game really tough on Bub. They were really physical with him for the first time, and he didn't. It was hard. I don't think he handled it well, and he had to learn from that experience. So I think they were pretty good at the beginning of last year too. But I mean, like 2 games after Florida was the Missouri game, so that kind of sunk them a little bit. That was a pretty bad loss, and there's still plenty of opportunities for that left. But yeah, they've been good so far. I really thought, Jim, that VMI game was impressive. Not because they beat a team by 45, but partially because they beat a team by 45. I mean, VMI stinks. They'll be okay at their level, I guess. But what was interesting to me is it was 3 days after the West Virginia game, 4 days before they're about to go down to Eisenhower's Congress bunker and play against LSU. And it's sort of sandwiched in between that. Like West Virginia, it's like a Friday night, tons of people, huge energy, big opponent, all that kind of stuff. This coming Friday, they're going to be going on the road. They're going to be in a tournament setting. They're going to be playing another big-time opponent and all this thing. And then tucked in between these 2 games is this random Monday night game with like 400 people there against a clearly overmatched opponent. Like, you could be lacking for energy in a game like that. And it just so happened it was an opponent who played not just a zone defense, but a pretty aggressive zone defense. Like, VMI was really active defensively, and they picked up full court press. Now, they only made like 15 shots, so they really couldn't press all that often because they only pressed after made shots. But their offense even was sort of aggressive and attacking, an energy-based system, really, on both ends of the court. And so it was an interesting challenge because, like, yeah, you got up for West Virginia. Yeah, you're going to get up for LSU. But what about on this random Monday night with nobody there? Can you get up and match this team's energy? And for a little bit, they kind of got a little bit too close for comfort. And then they just blew their doors off. Went from 21-18 to the final score. It was, what, a 72-30 scoring run over that. From there on, Pitt, I think, doubled them up. The rest of the way is pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable finish by Pitt, and pretty remarkable answer to be able to play in that kind of situation and still just beat the crap out of them. So I was impressed by that game, almost as much as I was impressed by West Virginia or Murray State. I mean, it's always the eternal question during the non-conference part of a basketball season. How much, do you take out of it? What do you think of the team? I mean, what do you think of this team so far after the 5 games they've played?
To the question's original point, this is Pitt's first 5-0 start since Capel's first year. So they did avoid like the St. Francis, the Citadel, like something like really stupid, like right off the bat. So, kudos to that. But like kind of talk about that VMI game and how it impressed you. I would say just in that they were aggressive. They're tough dudes. Like they were playing zone, but like still kind of hounding the ball handler. And Pitt didn't shoot the ball very well at the beginning. But like they could have easily just like started like driving and dumping it inside and just won that way. But they kept playing their game. Like they shot their way out of it. Like in the second half, they shot threes much better. So I don't know. I think that's a sign of a good team that like, yeah, team could be physical with you. Yeah, there could be no energy in the building, but like we're still going to do what we do and we're going to dictate things. And I thought that was impressive that way. But as to your question, 5 games in, I mean, I was high on this team going into the season, and nothing has happened yet to make me knock them down a peg or not. I mean, I still think this is a team that can win 24, 25 games in the regular season. I think they have really good guards. Obviously, we're seeing a lot more out of Guillermo this year. Cam Corrin's brought a lot of energy, scoring inside. I mean, I think it's a deep team. I mean, I think they're good whenever Delilich kind of gets up to speed. It's going to be 8 guys, and you can make a case on most nights. 6, maybe 7 of those 8 guys could lead the team in scoring, and it really wouldn't be that crazy. I think they had that a little bit 2 years ago. There would be like I think there was a stretch where it's like, okay, Blake did it this night, then it was Burton, then it was Sabandy. Like they just could beat you different ways each night. And that was a stat I posted earlier today. Is all 5 starters are averaging double figures. Like that's crazy. And the last time Pitt has had 5 scores in double figures was 2003. I mean, like it's something that doesn't happen a lot, but whenever you have balance like that, you're tough to defend.
Yeah, no question. It's and it does. It feels like Lowe could go off any night. He did. He's got multiple 20-point guys. Like Lowe, Leggett, and Dunn all have 20-point games this season, so those guys are capable of it. Guillermo will absolutely have a game where he scores like 18 this year, and hits like 4 threes and something like that. Cam Corrin will have, I mean, he scored 25 last year against Pitt, so we know he's capable of that as well. Zach Austin could go off for a game. Amsal will go off for a game. There's still somebody on the boards who's like, mark my words, Amsal Delilich is going to win 2 games for Pitt this year. And I was like,
you don't have to sell us.
You're preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the choir. RJC Man 38's a super chatter. He says, this is a great start to the basketball season. 0 drama by the players' behavior off court. This may be the first year Pitt will have fresh legs come March. We'll see. I mean, first of all, I would say, I mean, they won 2 games in the NCAA tournament 2 years ago. So I don't know if fresh legs was an issue. I am interested to see how this rotation plays out. Like we talked about how this could be a team that legitimately goes 8 or 9 deep. And they could, but will they? I thought it was really interesting in that West Virginia game. I mean, Jeff Capel played it really tight with the rotation. And I think part of that is like the message I took from it, and maybe this is not what Capel would agree with or anything, but the message I took from it was we cannot screw this up. Like this is the kind of game that we blew last year, Missouri, and it came back to bite us. We have to be absolutely sure we are going to win this game. And so he stuck to a 7-man rotation, and mostly it was 6. It's not like Brandon Cummings played all that much. Now, they were fortunate to stay out of foul trouble because that changes the equation if you get into the foul trouble. But, with everybody pretty much playing clean, Capel was like, no, this is it. I'm keeping it very tight, and we are not going to screw this up. So I thought that was interesting that he took that approach in game 4 of the regular season, but I also understand it. I mean, that was the kind of game that hurt them last year. And so, that's why like this weekend, I'm really going to be curious to see if we would say, oh yeah, they legitimately went 8 or 9 deep in one of these games, and maybe it's still too early. Maybe by mid-December, they'll be at that point where they're playing 8 guys solid minutes. But maybe I guess against Sam Houston, they'll probably and what's the other one? Who else are they playing?
Yeah, I'm one game at a time. Come on.
Well, you got to go 1-0 every week, Jim. I mean, that's the important thing.
Eastern Kentucky's in there.
Eastern Kentucky. They only have 2 more of those games left. I
Yeah.
mean, it's really like you're in a big stretch here. LSU and either UCF or Wisconsin this weekend. Ohio State next Friday on Black Friday. Mississippi State, God, 9:15. We're going to be doing another pregame show that night. That's a Wednesday.
No, that'll be fun.
Wednesday, that's signing day too. So
yeah, we'll be nice and awake for that 9 o'clock game.
And then the following Saturday is Virginia Tech. Then they get the Eastern Kentucky and Sam Houston, and then it's New Year's Day. Which again, like, I mean, come on, do we really need like a Pitt basketball game on New Year's Day? You know what sucks is the game on the 21st, the Sam Houston game.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is happening that day. Everything. Pitt basketball has a game against Sam Houston. 3 college football playoff games are that day. And there's 2 NFL games, including Steelers-Ravens. Now, fortunately, Steelers-Ravens is at like 4:30, so it shouldn't be a conflict with that. Like, we should be able to get out of the Pitt-Sam Houston game at a reasonable time. But I'm surprised about the NFL and college football going against each other. I think, like, the reason they're having those games on Saturday is because they're having Christmas Day games, and Christmas is on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the Steelers play on Christmas, so like you wouldn't go Sunday, Wednesday. So I think the NFL put these games on Saturday, but they're literally going head to head with the 3 college football, because there's 1 college football game on like Friday night, the 20th, college football playoff game, and then there's 3 on that Saturday, in addition to the headlining event of the day, Pitt against Sam Houston. So
can't wait.
It's gonna be a real mess. Swim Boyd is a super chatter. Says, when is the studio going to get some decor? You don't like my walls? I think it's a nice color. I mean, I do have the Day of the Dead poster, which I'm a big fan of. I like it because it incorporates all of the movies. Like at the top, you can't see it, but it's like a picture of like the moon. And it says first there was Night of the Living Dead, and then Dawn of the Dead, and now the darkest day of horror the world has ever known, Day of the Dead. Big George Romero fan over here, Jim. And, when I have us on our split screen here, they can't see it. If I go to just my camera, then, if I'm the only one on screen, you can see the Day of the Dead poster. This is on every, like, morning pit that I do. But when I bring Jim back in, we get his sweet concert photos, but I just have the plain wall. I mean, a little bit of gradient coloring to the wall due to the shadows, but, yeah. I don't know what kind of decor you would want. I guess I could put something behind me. You know why I don't put a picture directly behind me? I'm afraid the lights are going to reflect off it and it'll look bad. Because I have a sweet. Do you ever see that picture from the 1960 World Series? People on the top of the cathedral, watching. Yeah, I have that. It's framed. It's over. It's over there. You can't see me pointing, but now you can. It's over there. I would love to put that behind me. That would be a great backdrop. But the lights will reflect off the frame, and that doesn't look good. Real quick update on the matter of how you would get from D.C. to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, in the event of a nuclear attack in the Cold War era. Panther Dion says the government plan was to go by train. They would ship all 530 members of Congress by train to White Sulphur Springs. They built a track for it. So shout out to you. That may or may not be true. And I am in no position to disprove it. So
yes, cite your sources. Send us some links.
Yeah, right. Lat Harris points out something I did not cross my mind. Did this cross your mind, Jim? Do you see Dior Johnson coming back to bite us this weekend? I forgot about the possibility of Pitt facing Dior Johnson, Dior being at UCF. Was that on your radar, Jim, or are you absent-minded like I am?
No, again, when it first got announced, I was like, "Ooh, Dior, we're finally going to see it."
Nice.
But I don't know if he's doing all that much. Like one time I checked their box score and I saw like a D Johnson like having a great game. I was like, "Oh wow!" But there was a different.
Not him.
Darius Johnson's averaging 14 points a game. Dior is averaging 5 minutes a game.
Wow.
And
20 minutes a game. Oh no, he's played 20 minutes total. Excuse me, and he's 0 for 6. I just brought it up.
Does not have a point.
He's got 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 turnovers. Only 1 foul in his 20 minutes of play. Yeah. So no. Yeah, I don't see Dior coming back. And
well, if he does, then like that would be really a lot of circumstances would have had to have led to Dior having a chance to bite Pitt this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
I guess we'll see. All right, let's get some more comments and questions here. Adam Vitchik wants to know, do we have a prediction and a bold prediction for the Louisville game? What do you got, Jim?
Got to think of a bold prediction. I don't know. Kyle Lewis.
Hold on. Just think about it for a second. Because I do need to tell everybody about Chris Gates, because Chris Gates has something awesome going on right now. Our episode tonight, as so many have been in the past, is sponsored by Chris Gates Fitness and his online fitness training camp. Now, Chris, as everybody should know, is a huge Pitt fan. He's a longtime supporter of this show, and his training camp membership program is perfect for you if you have health and fitness goals. And what's cool is, from Monday, November 25th through Monday, December 2nd. Okay. So that's next week, next Monday through the following Monday. Chris is running a massive Black Friday sale where you can get 80% off your first month. Let me tell you a little bit about the program that Chris has. When you join training camp, you'll get access to brand new workout programs every month, so you can take all the guesswork out of your exercise plan. You'll also get access to weekly coaching calls with Chris in the private training camp community group, where you can get all your questions answered and receive guided support every step of the day. You also get access to exclusive courses about health and fitness, so you can build your knowledge base and know exactly what to do and when to do it to make progress. And most importantly, you'll join a community full of people there to support you every step of the way, so you never feel alone in your journey. Not to mention, Chris hosts challenges in the group every month to help push you to make progress and develop healthy habits. For instance, training camp members have been doing weekly football pick'em all season, in addition to challenges centered around training and nutrition. So far, winners have received hundreds of dollars in free supplements, free treadmills and other home gym equipment, and $150 Amazon gift cards. And in December, they'll be hosting bracket polls for the college football playoff and NFL playoffs, with huge prizes going to the winners. So if you use the promo code Panther-Lair between November 25th, which is next Monday, and December 2nd, which is the following Monday, to sign up for just $10 with the promo code Panther-Lair. That's 80% off the monthly price. So go to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp. Use the promo code Panther-Lair. Remember, starting next Monday, and learn more and sign up today. It's a great time to get a head start on your fitness goals for 2025. Let Chris and the training camp community help you navigate the holiday season successfully. Jim, what's your bold prediction for Saturday's game?
Pitt's going to score a defensive touchdown. Pitt is one of 7 teams in the entire country with 4 or more defensive touchdowns this season. Obviously, 3 happened in one game. I'm going to say Pitt scores a defensive touchdown. That is a bold prediction.
It feels less bold after they did it 3 times in one game, you know?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Right. And they have a specialty, like a punt return touchdown too, right? So, I mean, they've scored in a lot of different ways. A punt return touchdown and a blocked punt.
They have six non-offensive touchdowns.
6 non-offensive touchdowns in 10 games. I mean, it's pretty much old hat, Jim. It's not really all that bold. I mean,
it's been a while.
Yeah, I guess so. It's been a couple games. My bold prediction is Konate Mumpfield is going to score 2 touchdowns in this game. Who knows in what way? Could be anyway. Most likely receiving, but I think he's going to score 2 touchdowns. Do you think they win this game, Jim?
I can talk myself into it. I don't know if I want to go on the record just yet, but you know what? Whatever. Hey, Pitt's gonna win.
Yeah, why not?
I'm in. Yeah.
$7 says that ESPN gives Pitt a 24.7% chance of beating Louisville. I wonder what the percentage was last year when Pitt played Louisville.
I would imagine lower.
I wonder what Virginia's percentage was against Pitt heading into that game.
I wonder what Stanford's chances against Louisville.
I wonder what Louisville's chances were against Clemson. Maybe that's all poppycock. Green says, is the rumor true that if Pat doesn't get 9 wins, he's on the hot seat with the new AD? I haven't heard that rumor, Jim. Have you?
I haven't. Not even on our message boards.
No.
What are these guys doing?
I don't see any reason. I think there's too much in place. There's too much sort of infrastructure built around the current program that, Alan Green's not going to do anything drastic right off the bat. You know what I mean? He's not going to come in and fire the head football coach who's been here for 10 years, who has the program sort of built in a certain way and has like certain things built with the NIL structure and the collective, all this different. Like, you don't walk, he's not going to walk in and fire him right off the bat. You know, like a year or two from now, if things really go south, then yeah, but you know, it's not, he's not going to do that. Let's see. Adam Vinchik wants to know, do you think Pitt's going to lose any more commitments before National Signing Day in a few weeks? Do you think they will add anyone? So, yeah, we were going to talk recruiting too, Jim. Pitt lost a commitment today. Elijah Dotson, the 4-star defensive back, decommitted from Pitt. He was a summer commitment, a June official visit guy. And I think there was some expectation that he was probably going to end up flipping to Michigan at some point, which he did today. I think we've sort of seen that coming for a while. Not a huge shock, but I sort of get the impression the rest of this class is pretty well set. Is that how you see it too, Jim?
It is, because with this season playing out the way it did, there was 2 bye weeks. So I ended up trying to interview a lot of those guys, get some articles, just check in on their senior seasons. And for the most part, like, everyone was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm definitely going to go to Pitt. And Elijah Dotson was like, well, yeah, I still have some other offers I'm going to see. Like, so like, even like then back in September, whenever I first talked to him, like he acknowledged, he was like, yeah, there's other schools out there. I'm not going to lie. So like, I don't know. I kind of like, usually like those kind of interviews, like they kind of like say what they think you want to hear, but he was just like, no, like I am looking at other schools too. So that one wasn't a shocker, but everyone else kind of like, I get the sense that they're solid. I haven't heard of any guys really wavering. I haven't really seen anyone connected to other schools, even in like different recruiting updates. And, aside from that, I think it's a pretty good class. I think it kind of fits with what they're doing, because even without Elijah Dotson, it's a good defensive back class. I think they did linebackers well again, which has kind of been a trend lately. And you look at all those running backs and receivers, and Mason Heinschel, yeah, there's a lot to like there. I mean, the one concern I had in June, and the one I still have now, is I don't know how well they did on the offensive line. I guess we'll see down the line, but that's probably the one area that's lacking. But everything else, I think it's a good class.
And they took a lot of guys, right? They have 4 offensive linemen, so they took a lot of guys there. I think they took a lot of guys like the last few years. They've loaded up numbers wise on the offensive line. I just don't know about the quality. I just don't know how good they're going to be. It is interesting. I think it's a really good defensive class, but the numbers favor the offense. They have 12 offensive guys and 9 defensive guys. But I just think their 9 defensive guys have some really, really good players. Interesting group of skill guys, 6 running backs / receivers. At some point, I'm going to sit down and remind myself which ones are running backs and which ones are receivers. But there's 6 of those guys. Like you mentioned, I mean, the quarterback, the tight end, the 4 offensive linemen. They're attacking the offensive side with numbers. I think the offensive line solution is going to come more often than not from the transfer portal. Yeah, I mean, I think they need portal guys next year, and I think they're going to need portal guys every year on the offensive line. I just don't know if they're ever really going to be able to recruit well enough to just build it out of prospects, year in, year out. And I think, yeah, I mean, even with Jackson Brown starting, right? I mean, he was a transfer. Lyndon Cooper's been starting all year on the offensive line. And I think that's just going to be what they have to get good ones, and that could be the hardest part. But I just don't know if they're going to have recruited solutions there. But hey, I'm with you. I like the defensive class. They lose Elijah Dotson, but I mean, if there's any position I think we kind of trust this staff on, it's the defensive backs. And this group with Josh Gurrier and Cole Woodson and Mason Alexander and Sean Lee, I think looks really, really good. They're fast. They're athletic. I think they're good players. I like the linebackers too, like you said. Smaller defensive line class. And I don't think last year's defensive line class was very big either, right? It was 3 guys, Sincere Edwards and Francis Brew and Jasir Whittington. Did I forget somebody?
Zach Carruthers and Ty Ross. So it was actually on the bigger side.
That is a bigger class. Yeah. I guess it's just a few of them that are playing. It's funny, those guys who are redshirting just sort of, they just
about them.
Just forget where they are. But I think that'll be a spot too that they try and attack with the portal. And that's what's funny. Like, signing day is 2 weeks from today. But like, that is by no means like a finish line. Like there's going to be so much that happens. I meant to look this up. Is it a 2-week signing period? Do you know how long the signing period goes off the top of your head?
I would guess, because I think like even right now, like basketball signing day was last week, but I still think you have like a
Yeah.
week to 10 days to sign. I mean, most people do it on the first day,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know what this is going to look like, because it's the earliest it's ever been. It's what,
Right.
December 4th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, basketball has always sort of embraced the idea of a signing period,
Mhm.
and kids have signed at different points. That was always the funny thing when it was signing day was the first Wednesday in February. It was like, oh, this is signing day, but it was really just the first day of a signing period that went until like April 1st or something. Terrell Pryor famously went almost till the end of March before he ended up signing. I guess it really doesn't matter if it's a signing day or signing period, starting in 2 weeks as far as transfers go, because it really doesn't matter if transfers sign. Like Pat Narduzzi said this the other day, like if they sign the letter of intent, it kind of binds them to it. But they could sign as many like academic or not academic, they could sign as many aid papers as they want. And then just they show up at one of those schools, like,
Yeah.
and wherever they show up, that's the school they're going to. And so it's kind of not as important as more like who can you get to campus that actually matters, particularly with the transfers. But it's still going to be something we're going to be following. I do need to check the recruiting calendar on how long they can take visits. You don't know that off the top of your head on when the dead period starts, do you?
I don't.
Let me see if I can look that up right quick, just because that's a relevant. The first blah 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 December 23rd is when a dead period starts. Actually, there's a dead period the 2nd through the 8th, so there's a dead period around signing day, and then the 9th through the 22nd is a quiet period, and during that time, transfers can take visits, or recruits who are still out there could take visits. But is that right? Yeah. So that's what we'll be watching. So it'll be interesting. We'll get through signing day 2 Wednesdays from now, and then we'll just watch transfers who take visits and try and find out who they're after. And that'll be exciting, I think. RJC man says Pitt 27, Louisville 17. I'm not even read about Narduzzi being on the hot seat. Let's see. RJC man says recruiting in today's college sports is 100% about retention and improving by the transfer portal. Yeah, I mean, like you have two goals every offseason, and you have to hold on to your good players and go try to add some more. And to that extent, I think if this team, if the coaches this offseason can hold on to the main guys on both sides of the ball and then add a couple key pieces, they should be pretty good in 2025. Do you agree about that?
Yeah, I always looked at this season, and like it's hard to like kind of look ahead in this day and age in college football, but like under normal circumstances, this would have been the year you build, and next year is the year you compete for the ACC. And as long as a lot of those main guys stay, as long as you have your Eli Holstein, Desmond Reed, Kyle Lewis, Rasheem Biles, like if you have your main core of guys and they're all back and you add to it, yeah, they should be pretty good next year. But yeah, I mean, with college football anymore, it's like you're probably going to take 20, give or take 20 high school recruits and probably give or take 15 transfers. Like you're always going to have like that 35 to 40 guys like switching every year, which is crazy. But I think that's how it worked out last year. And I think that's probably just how it's going to be from now on. It's like your roster is going to flip like 30 to 40 guys in a year. And it's crazy to think about because that wasn't the case a couple of years ago. But I think that's just kind of how you have to embrace things now.
Yeah. I'm seeing the hot seat conversation about Pat Narduzzi is in a mailbag on the Post-Gazette. So, no, that's not being reported. That's not even a rumor. That's somebody asked a question like that. $7 says Virginia Tech lost to Jacksonville by 10. Did you see this sports result here, Jim?
No. That's ACC's been having problems with a few of these games this year, it seems.
Yeah. Oh, well. They're in Fort Myers, I guess, for the Fort Myers tip-off. I don't know if they're actually there or not. Virginia Tech lost to Penn State as well. last week. So the Hokies not having a good time of it so far. Not having a good time.
Didn't their best player get kicked off the team right before the season?
I don't know. I'd have to take your word for it. They're 3-2, I guess, but they have lost their last two. Yeah, they lost to Jacksonville at home by 10. So that's not good. Yeah, that's like that Fort Myers tip-off. They play the first game at home, and then they go down to Fort Myers to face Michigan and either South Carolina or Xavier. So maybe that'll be an interesting game. Saturday, December 7th, when Pitt hosts Virginia Tech. That could be an interesting one. But anyway, all right, we'll see what happens. Obviously, Pitt, LSU on wait, hold on. There's one more question that came in. Paul Sebastian says, do you think the season schedule changes to only 2 non-conference games? That way you don't have the confusion of a championship game. No. You mean playing 10 conference games? What do you think he means, Jim?
I don't know, but before they get there, the ACC would probably need to go to 9 first. They're still at 8. Other leagues are at 9. So I think that's probably going to happen eventually, I would think, because as long as you have 1 million teams in your conference, you might as well just, play them.
Yeah. Oh, he means to assist with tiebreakers. I guess the more games you play, the less you would be to have ties, which I guess makes sense. I don't know. I think would be interesting. Who was it? Was it Kirby Smart or maybe something Kirby Smart said and and a writer wrote a column sort of extrapolating the idea, but that it almost would be better to not play in the SEC championship game. That it'd be better to finish 10-2 and miss the SEC championship game and maybe have a better chance of making the playoffs than being 10-2 and going to the SEC championship game, taking a third loss and potentially dropping. And so he even suggesting that you would tank a game to not make the or if you're not going to make, I don't know. I don't think they're never going to do away with conference championship games because it makes a boatload of money. But I don't know. It'll be just to see how the polls work out. If they give teams credit for making the championship game but losing. I mean, they didn't pick Pitt to go to the playoffs in 2018. So, clearly they held the ACC championship loss against Pitt, and that's why they didn't get picked to go to the playoffs. But anyway, it's going to be a big weekend. Pitt basketball on Friday against LSU, Pitt football against Louisville on Saturday, and then Pitt basketball against whoever it might be, UCF or Wisconsin on Sunday afternoon. Should be very interesting with a lot to talk about for sure. So make sure you stay tuned right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe. That way you don't miss the morning Pitt video each day of the week or these weekly live shows or our post-game show after the game on Saturday. We will be live after Pitt Louisville to talk about that one right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like the video and subscribe, and that way you won't miss it. All right, Jim, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Comments and questions and everything. And, yeah, have a good rest of your Wednesday night. We'll have a lot of recruiting talk on the Morning Pit tomorrow, and we'll catch up with you again soon right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.